celebrate Black history, the Post and Courier is presenting a series of video interviews and podcasts featuring 12 dynamic South Carolina leaders to know. We talk to people from all over the state about their efforts to advance social justice, celebrate Black culture, address community needs, and create a better world. Our videos and podcasts will be released monthly through January 2022. To watch or to listen, and to read feature stories about major civil rights milestones, significant organizations, past and present, and South Carolina's pantheon of social justice warriors, go to postandcourier.com/Black History. Join us in learning about our state's remarkable change agents.
South Carolina Buy Black Locally helps you find and support Black-owned businesses in your area, keeping that money in our communities. Our online directory has over 300 listings from Black-owned businesses all across South Carolina, and we're growing each day, reaching more customers through networking and word of mouth. We offer resources for all SCBBL members, from events, upcoming shows, and much more. Visit us online at scbbl.co and shop the Black-owned businesses to keep the money flowing in our communities.
Today, we welcome Jerry Blassingame. Jerry Blassingame, greetings, good morning, hi.
Good morning, how you doing, Adam?
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for hosting us in this beautiful space and in this wonderful, fascinating space where you're doing all this really good work.
Yes.
I'm very eager to get to that very shortly.
Okay.
First, I want to understand a little bit about you and who you are and what formed you and shaped you and brought you to this point in your life where you're running now very successfully for how long?
22 years.
22 years,
yeah.
Soteria,
Yeah.
This community development corporation serving the community so importantly. But how did you get here? What was your youth like? Where did you grow up? Did you grow up in Greenville?
Yeah, I was born and raised right here in Greenville. I was born over in the West Greenville community.
Mm-hmm. Which now is so gentrified, it's like the artsy part of town, right?
Yes. A lot of people that used to live there do not live there any longer.
Yeah.
So people of much higher income bracket live there now.
Okay.
Yeah, and so, but I frequent there a lot. Actually, we own some property in West Greenville, our nonprofit. So it was a blessing to be able to own some property there. Yes.
That's a good investment.
Yes. Yeah. So, but yeah, grew up in Greenville, all my life. I traveled around, but just, that's, my roots are here. Mm-hmm. I feel like when you talk about, where I am now and looking back, compost comes up. I was like, Jerry, compost. Yeah, compost is this big glob of mess that you throw stuff in and something good grows out of it one day. And that's what happened in my life. I got this big traumatic mess of life as a kid. My mother, the first big thing I remember as a kid at 5 years old, my mother was murdered, Adam. Yeah. Her boyfriend murdered her in the next room beside my brother and I. I heard him fussing and arguing, and then he said, "You better leave before you see something you don't want to see." And 10 minutes later, we heard 2 shots. And we all got up, ran out of the house. And the next morning, I found out that my mother was shot by this man twice in the temple. And the guy shot my grandfather as well. My grandfather did not die that night, but he died 2 years later from the gunshot wound.
And he was trying to protect your mom?
Yes. He ran. We all ran out of the house, and he ran back, his daughter. So he ran back, and the guy shot him.
Well, I mean, that's a father's instinct.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow. And you were 5.
I was 5. It was in January, so it was 2 months before my 6th birthday. And so my mother and I had been planning my 6-year-old birthday party. Mm-hmm. So that was the second traumatic thing that happened in my life.
To not be able to have that. Yeah, and for a kid, I can imagine that's a critical thing.
Yes.
To have your mom there. And
most definitely. Yeah. And 6 is a milestone birthday for kids. First grade, and all that. And that never happened, so.
Wow. Okay, so that was the start in a way of things. And what a trauma.
Yes. And the thing about it is that you just live through it because we never received counseling, any type of counseling. I had 4 of the siblings. I was the baby of 5. My grandmother and my grandfather, we lived with them. They moved away from West Greenville to the other side of town. So we just like life as usual.
Yeah.
We just
forge ahead.
Yeah, we just, what do you do? And so my grandmother was a great lady. Oh, she could cook. She was a great housekeeper, but she started drinking. Mm-hmm. And she drank almost every day.
Well, she just lost a daughter.
Oh, and her husband.
And a husband.
Yeah, and
2 years.
My mother was a twin. Her sister died 2 years before her. Yeah. So we all lived in that trauma, but being a 5 and 6 year old kid, I had no understanding of what I was in.
Yeah.
I was like, this is normal.
Right.
You know, it was normal to come home and everybody in my house was drunk. It was normal to have sleep for dinner. It was normal. You know, it was normal not to have the clothes that I needed. You know, it was normal, but school was normal.
School was a safe
Oh my
refuge
God.
for you?
School was the place that I found refuge. I love school. I love learning. I love reading. I love art. I just love the people, and my teachers, they must have known my background, and they really, I look back and I can tell they took care of me.
Okay. Well, because not all teachers are fully aware of the background of their students.
Yeah.
I mean, the good ones, I
Yeah.
guess, are, but...
Well, I was a inner city black kid that was being bused to the east side of town. So I was one of 2 black students in a class. So I wasn't in an all black or mostly black school in the 70s. I was in a mostly white school.
Okay. And you were thriving
Yes, in school.
in school.
Yes.
And your teachers saw that you were performing well and understood something about your background, I guess,
Yes.
maybe, and so protected you.
Right.
Okay, so that was a stroke of luck or whatever you might want to attribute that to, but a guardian angel.
Yes. I have a few of those.
Yeah. Okay, that came along at different times in your life, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
And pushed you along. So then with school, then you found your place. You found where it was you could succeed. You understood your own potential, I guess. You had people who supported you, who also believed in you and your abilities.
Yeah. In understanding PTSD now, I didn't then. Some people just go off the deep end. Mine went to a creative space.
Okay.
I was reading and creating things, and I love art class. I would create all these crazy things in art, and my art teacher liked me. Jerry, do more, you know, and that fed me because I didn't have anything. My mom was gone. She was the person that I craved attention from, so I was looking for attention. And
Interesting.
Yeah, in other places. And at 9 years old, I got hooked on pornography. I found a pornography book.
Oh.
And that was the other thing that I poured myself into. And so I'm open book. I talk about all this stuff because it helps people, you know?
Right.
But, those things, the art and then the pornography, my secret pornography addiction all the way through my teenage years, up into my 20s. I had a secret pornography addiction that no one knew about but me. And, then as we got older, my friends and I did it. But, that was the 2 things that I kind of poured myself into just to get away from the pain. I was hurting and I was in pain, but I didn't know why.
Why?
Nobody set me down.
And you didn't
said,
know how to deal with it.
No.
Yeah.
Well, I thought I knew through pornography and some of the other things.
Okay.
But I lived in the inner city where, drinking, drugging, womanizing, that was a part, gangsters, that was a part of our community. So I had 2 lives I was living. I was living this inner city life in my project neighborhood, then I would go to school with my middle to upper class white friends who liked me because I fit in with them. I was smart, I was in their classes, and they would take me home or invite me to their house to meet their parents. So I got to see another side that some of my friends didn't.
Do you think that you were making an extra effort to fit in? And it sounds like you wanted to please your teachers, for example, that you saw there was some potential there. They liked you and they encouraged you, and they were, in a sense, substitute, not parents, but substitute adult authority figures who you could then strive to please.
Yes, it was different from my home.
Yeah.
It was different from my home, and they just cared. In a different. My grandmother cared. Don't get me wrong, she cared, but it was different because I knew there was something better than living inner city poverty life as a young black kid. I knew there was more.
But at what point did that occur to you? Because earlier you said you didn't realize that this wasn't normal.
Yeah.
But then at a certain point you must have started to figure that out.
Yes, at a certain point, because once I got to school and I saw kids wearing nice shoes and nice clothes, and at school there were lunches and things. It was just different. And, kids
Other
would
people
come back,
live differently.
Yeah, kids would come back from summer and say, "Hey, I went to Myrtle Beach. I went here." I'm like, "You did? Where'd you go?" So I started to realizing, oh, okay, there's more, to life from other people.
So then I guess, and you excelled all the way through high school, right? And you were very creative, and you were in art class and wood shop and all this stuff. I am assuming you started to form in your own mind a path to the future for yourself.
Yes.
What did you hope to do, And then what actually happened to you?
So I was on track to be one of the greatest black architects that ever come out of South Carolina. That was my dream. I was going to be one of the greatest black architects. I was going to design houses, buildings, all kinds of stuff. Houses on the mountain, underground house. I had all these, things in my mind, and I was really good at it. I got a 2-year full ride scholarship, and I was on my way to Clemson, to transfer when I got arrested. And I'll back up a minute, because my first couple years in college, it's in the 80s. Crack is out in Greenville.
Right, crack epidemic,
The hip hop culture is out. A lot of my friends who were 18, 19, and 20 at the time were driving nice cars, wearing nice clothes, and I was still living off of a check from the federal government from my mother. I would get a couple $100 a month probably, I don't know, it was nothing. And I would probably give some of that to my grandmother for bills, because we had to eat and live and things. And so they were wearing nice gold chains and, Adidas sweatsuits and Nikes, and I wanted that too. So I started selling drugs after school. I first started watching for the police. $50 a day, then it went to $100 a day. And then I bought a car, and a guy started paying me $200 a day just to drive him around and drop off his drugs after school. So I would go to school, finish school, and go stand on the corner for a couple hours. And
it's real money.
Yeah, back then, you're talking $700, $800, $900 a week sometimes. And so I got to the point to where I learned the business just by being around one of the kingpins, because I was his man, his lieutenant. I didn't have to touch anything, and he got hooked on crack. And his boss came to me one day and threw me 9 ounces of cocaine and said, "Hey, you're the man now. You need to take over this guy's business." I can't call names, but take over his business. So I took over the business. And I came home from school one day, and a guy dropped a bag of money on me. It was $20,000 cash money. That was my profit that I made in one day from selling crack.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm like, an architect could never make this much money. I'm done.
Yeah.
So I dropped out of school, and I started my career as a drug dealer.
In a way, though, you were primed. There was a weakness, maybe, if that's fair to call it. You had grown up with in these two worlds, seeing the potential, but also dealing with the reality of poverty, and I could see how it would be very easy, how one would be very susceptible to that, given those circumstances.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was a no-brainer in a way, right?
Exactly. When you can have resources and money and do things and, go to school for 6 hours and just wait for 4 years to get a degree, which that's the thing to do. I encourage all kids to do that.
Right.
Don't take my road. But, back then it was like I got all this money and the attention and fame that I've been craving my whole life.
Yeah.
And I could go jump on a plane and go to Las Vegas or go to Mexico or go buy this car, that car, those shoes, and go buy everybody on the block a pair of shoes, which I did sometimes. It feels good. And, I took care of people. I was the good drug dealer, what people called me. I would take care of people.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you've always been taking care of people.
I've always been taking care of people. I just got a good heart,
Right.
Yeah.
It's just in different ways.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. So then this ends abruptly, I guess.
Yeah.
Or not so abruptly, but.
Well, I got arrested twice. The first time I got arrested, I got a 15-year sentence, suspended to 9 months and 5 years probation. I know that's a lot, but I only did 4 months in prison. Okay. So when I got out, I couldn't get my Pell Grant because of the crime bill, felony, and so I'm like, okay, I couldn't find a job because of the felony. So guess what I did?
We went back to doing what
you
were doing.
Oh my God, yes. Yeah. Everybody was waiting on me to come back and bring my drugs back to the street. So I did it. It was easy. It was an easy path. 6 months later, a friend of mine set me up. He got caught and told the detectives about me. They were like, "Oh, Jerry Blassingame." And the police did not know who I was. They knew my name, but they could never catch me because they didn't know who I was. And when they finally caught me, they was like, "You're Jerry Blassingame? Thought you were gonna be some big dude."
Interesting.
Yeah, because I was doing so much and moving so much dope on the street. They thought I was just
some big tough guy.
Yeah, but I was just a little skinny, puny guy. with a lot of money.
With a lot of money.
Yeah, and so
Right.
they arrested me, and I had 11 drug charges: distribution of cocaine, transportation of cocaine, trafficking of cocaine,
Conspiracy.
Oh
to
my
sell
God,
cocaine.
it was the list goes on and on, and that, I looked real.
Was
bad.
it all crack or was it also cocaine?
It was cocaine. I didn't get caught with any crack, but I was dealing a lot of cocaine. I was manufacturing crack.
Yeah.
I was cooking up and putting a lot of crack on the street, but I never got caught with any person. I got caught with powder cocaine.
Okay, and this time you served longer, I guess?
Well, yes, this was a 20-year sentence, and it was supposed to be violent because of the conspiracy, because of the transportation trafficking. I pleaded, and they threw out the trafficking charges. So I got 20-year nonviolent, in which I was supposed to do 51% of that sentence with good behavior. I only served 3.5 years on that sentence.
Why?
Because of my guardian angels.
Guardian angels.
The racial and economic disparities in this country have only been widened by the coronavirus and amplified by the most recent acts of injustice. That's why Bank of America has committed $1 billion over 4 years to address critical gaps in affordable housing, access to healthcare, employment and job skills, and the resources small businesses need to succeed. We can do more to further advance racial equality and economic opportunity for all.
So when I went into the jail system, I was distraught. No one accepted my phone calls. Everybody left me. It was just crazy. I was married at the time. My first wife divorced me before the ink was dry on my indictments. Why should she stay with me? I got a 20-year prison sentence.
Well, can you
Had 2
blame her?
kids. And so I put myself into the Bible, and I grew up not believing in God. I didn't think God existed. As you can see, what kid would believe in a God that take their mother and never let them meet their father? So I didn't believe in God. And so my sister, who was a drug addict as a teenager, had became a Christian. And she started talking to me about God. You need to change your life. I'm like, no. But finally, she broke me down, and I believed, and became a Christian, started reading the Bible. And when I got to the prison system, which was in like November of '95, I just got involved in the Christian community and started reading the Bible, going to church, and I started writing, and I just felt like I shouldn't be here. And Adam, this funny thing, everybody who would meet me, they would be like, what are you doing here? You don't look like you need to be here.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow.
There was a cognitive dissonance given who you are and...
just the way I'm a teacher at heart. And so when I went into the prison system, my job was a tutor. I would teach guys how to read. I would help them get their GED. I've always been a teacher. I love to teach. And so I'm a helper. I would help people. And so no one was like, what are you doing here? But anyway, I started writing. I would journal every morning. I would pray. I would study my Bible, and I would write what I want to do. So I started planning for a nonprofit because I knew that when I got out of prison, if I didn't do something, I was coming back.
Nobody was going to hire you.
Exactly. Along with the other 25,000 men and women who were in prison, who I kept asking, why are you here again? They were like, I couldn't find a job. I couldn't go to school. I couldn't live with my mom. She was on Section 8. And the list goes on. There's 48,000 collateral consequences that punish people in America who've been previously incarcerated. And so in South Carolina, there are 7,000 collateral consequences. Things like fines, fees, housing, job placement, and things like that, occupational licenses. You can't get licensed as an architect. If you can't get, licensed for barbering. It's just things like that.
As if the system sets you up for failure as opposed to rehabilitation.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I started writing a plan. So for 3.5 years, every day, a plan.
Oh, a plan.
Plan. And so,
because theater in prison, it's a thing.
It is a thing.
Sorry, and you're the sort of person who would write a play.
Well, maybe
so sorry about mishearing you there. Okay,
but
you started putting a plan together.
But every day I would get up in the morning, 5:30, 6 o'clock, sometimes 4, 4:30, whatever time I would get up, and I would just write page or 2 pages in my journal. And it was what I wanted to do. I would write people, I would do research, read newspaper articles, find out what was going on, and I was putting the plan together.
And what, did you have this idea, the Soteria idea, early on?
It was kind of it kind of came toward the end, but I knew there had to be something, because I couldn't find anything like this, that when a person get out, they could go, because I didn't have anybody. My grandmother had passed away. All my brothers and sisters, were kind of gone. One of my brothers and sisters had got hooked on crack themselves. So I didn't have anybody with resources. So I'm like, I got to be on my own.
support system
No
at all.
support system. And so I had to create my own support system. And I started pen paling with a church out of Clemson, Clemson United Methodist Church, and they changed my life. There were lawyers, there were doctors, there were professors in that class that wrote me, monthly, encouraging me. And I'm like, these people really care about me. And I thought it was just faking, but they really cared, and they were really concerned about me and my future. And I told them that I wanted to get out and start a ministry, and they paid my way through Columbia International University to take Bible classes. And so they were very serious, and they really encouraged me that people can change and that people do love. And when I told them about my plan,
Which is part of the Christian ethos.
Yes.
I mean, it's never too late.
No.
For anybody.
Right.
And I mean to embrace God, but it goes beyond that.
Yes.
A real Christian ethos goes beyond that.
Yeah.
It's really about transformation.
Right.
Yeah.
And I always, what I tell people is, you put overalls on faith. We believe things, but you got to work.
Yeah.
And so these people put overalls on their faith, and they showed me that, look, we're not just going to believe, we're going to
help you make it
help
happen.
you and do things. And they came to visit me sometimes, and did things. So it was really
Wow.
encouraging. And when you tell people that I have this plan to do this when I get out, and they say, oh yeah, right. But they say, what can we do? How can we help you? And that
was probably the thing that made the difference, though, don't you think?
almost definitely.
I mean, they understood, plus you are who you are, smart and creative, and, so I'm sure they understood the sort of person they were dealing with fairly early on. And then somebody with clear ideas about what they wanted to do, I mean, how do you resist that?
Right. And I love to write. I love to write. I was writing then, and they saw some of my writings, and I had, I used to print all my letters, and I was, studied architecture. Back then, we didn't have CAD. We had to hand write all of them. So I had pretty neat handwriting as well, so that helps too. So
Yeah.
And they often talked about that.
This guy's educated.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
there's arguably a little bit of a, prejudice there, but people, if they see that there's real potential, or if they think they recognize real potential, then they're more inclined to engage.
Right. And I'm going to double down right here, because I look at people who people may say don't have real potential.
But actually do.
They do.
Of course.
And I have to look at all these people, even people who can't write or have messy handwriting or can't read. I have to look at them and say, I want to help you.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
what
why
this is
should
about.
that hinder
Right.
their ability to? Okay, so tell me about implementing the plan. So you're out, and now you have this plan, and it must have been difficult.
It was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have this plan, and people are seeing it, and they're not believing it. Here I am, young, 20-something-year-old black man with a criminal background in Greenville, South Carolina. Who's going to believe in me? I got 11 drug charges. I got 11 years parole. I got parole with 11 years parole. And so every job I went to was like, but we did it. My wife married me a year before I got out of prison in '98. And because I showed her the plan, and she was like, oh, wow, this is great. And everybody thought she was crazy.
It was sort of the opposite of what happened earlier.
Yes.
As soon as you got arrested, your first wife said, uh-oh.
Yeah.
But this time, it was the other way around. She understood that
Right.
you were onto something.
Right. Yeah.
Even before you left prison.
Yeah, exactly. So we got a little small apartment, and we started working. I got a job, and she already had a job, and we just started plowing away. It was tough. There were days when there were no food, or there were days when we couldn't pay the bills, but we made it. And I'm still planning this organization. I got released in March of 1999. Soteria was started in June of 1999. So a few short months after I was released, I had a nonprofit corporation. And people's like, wow, you are serious. Yes, I'm serious. Because I knew that I needed to help myself too.
Right.
I always tell people I'm the first graduate of the program. Everything that these guys are doing, I did it. I did financial literacy. I fixed my credit. I became a homeowner. I bought cars. I have several small businesses. I've created this business. Soteria is a business. It's a nonprofit, but it's a business. And so everything the guys are doing, I did it. And so I wanted them to see that, you don't have an excuse.
Right.
And so, but early on, we didn't have all this. I would write letters to guys. I would do hygiene kits for guys when guys would get out, go do Bible studies in prison. And every church I was a part of didn't believe me. That's another thing I talk about in my book. just how the church is kind of like, I don't know about you. You've been in prison. And I'm like, what? And that was a little hurting for me. But I managed to get through that. I pastored for 7 years, so I understand. But that's a whole nother thing that we got to work on, is that forgiveness in second, third, and fourth chances. Even that's the thing that we need to be doing. But those of us who are Christians, we don't see it. And so I had to get through that as well. The very first church I was a part of, that I told them I had a call in my life to do this, and the pastor's wife said, "Are you really supposed to do this? Is this what the church need to be doing?" I'm like, wow. But I was a part of another church that really helped me and got behind me and helped push Soteria to the next level.
Yeah.
We got our first house. It was a rental property. Mike Chesser, he passed away last year. He's a great mentor of mine. I went in his office, shared my story with him. He called his whole staff in. He said, "We've got to help this guy." And they rented me a house, a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house for $350 a month, all utilities included, and furnished the house. And that was when we put our first 4 guys. It was in 2001. Put our first 4 guys in a house on Mason Street, near off Pilgrim Street here in Greenville.
Okay. And that must have liberated you a little financially to begin to do other things with the business, setting it up. Yeah.
Yes, and so we had a car. We had a Honda Accord that we used to get the guys back and forth to work. We moved from Greenville to Abbeville because the lady who played the piano in the church asked me if I wanted to buy her a house, because jokingly one day I went in her house, which was a old bed and breakfast in Abbeville full of antiques, and I said, "I'd love to have this house one day."
But it was haunted, it turns out, so you couldn't stay.
Yeah. Well, the town was haunted.
The whole town. With all due respect to those who live in Abbeville.
No, but we stayed there for 4 years.
Yeah.
Had 2 kids there and moved back to Greenville. But Abbeville is just a small, quaint town. We're all from Greenville, big city, but we kind of grew our ministry out of Abbeville. So I was commuting back and forth every day from Greenville to Abbeville. And I was also working with a geotechnical engineering firm at the time. And so that was my part-time job, because I wanted to get back into architecture, and I found out that I couldn't get licensed. So I got hired with this geotechnical engineering firm. And finally I walked off and gave them a 2 weeks notice and said, I need to do Soteria full time. I didn't have a paycheck. So I left a good paying job for no paycheck to pursue this, this career. And
but you had a little capital invest. I mean, you had a nest, something? No, you were just on faith.
I didn't have anything.
Yeah.
I remember, one day I was coming in to the house. It was midday for something, and the electric company was turning my power off. I remember another time when we were laying in bed one night, getting ready to fall asleep, and the tow truck came up and repoed our car.
Oh. Yeah, so it's been a rocky road.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's not back up. Tell me now what Soteria is. What do you do specifically? What's your mission, and how do you go about it?
So, in a nutshell, we advocate for men and women who's been incarcerated for economic and social justice, to put tools in their hands so that they can be successful citizens. The tools that we use are housing, education, employment, advocacy, and affirmation, which we look at mentoring and teaching, Bible studies, and things like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're preparing. But it's more than a reentry program. You're employing people and paying them.
Yes.
You're providing them transitional housing at little to no cost.
Right.
You're providing them food, clothing, especially when they're just released. You just give them a package, right?
Yeah. We give them a first day package when they come out with underwear, sock, deodorant, all the hygiene stuff they need. If they need clothes and boots, we get those as well.
So you're removing all of the X factors from their lives. And of course, anybody who's fresh out of prison is faced only with X factors.
Right.
Typically.
Exactly.
That's all you have.
Right.
Like, okay, now what do I do?
Right.
And instead, you've removed all of those X factors. And so you've set the stage to retrain them and give them skills and faith in themselves. So what do? You have a wood shop, right?
Yeah, we have a wood shop. We have a social enterprise called Soteria at Work.
Okay.
And when the guys first get out, everybody has to work the first 30 days in that wood shop, and we give them a stipend, some type of pay while they're, getting acclimated. Because you have to have ID or a driver's license, a security card, birth certificate, and most people get out of prison don't have that.
Right.
So it takes about 30 to 45 days just to become an American again.
Right. A full human being.
Yes, and when you get out of prison, they give you a prison ID, but the DMV won't take that state-issued prison ID as state-issued identification. Who you been?
Part of the problem we were talking about before, where the system itself is just not really set up to help.
Yes, you would think the DMV and Vital Records and all these people who are state agencies would work with the prison system, that when a guy walk out, they say, here, Mr. So-and-so or Mrs. So-and-so, you're a citizen again. You're a human being again.
Right.
But they don't. And so we help them with all that stuff at first. Mentoring, we make sure they get a mentor from a local church or a business, somebody to walk with them.
So you partner with third parties?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Financial literacy, they have to take financial literacy every Saturday. We do different Bible studies during the week. We have a chiropractor that comes on Monday. We do health and wellness. The guys go out on outings. And so we have different things. There's something to do every day. Yeah. They eat 3 meals a day. They eat breakfast. They get a lunch to take with them, and we have somebody that cooks dinner at night.
Yeah.
We have 3 vehicles where we take them everywhere they want to go. They get a ride back and forth to work, probation and parole, to the doctor, to the grocery store if they need to go pick up things that they have with their own money. So we take them everywhere they need to go until they get their own driver's license.
Amazing. And in the meantime, they're able to save money.
Yes.
Because they don't have to spend all this money.
They have to save. It's a requirement.
Okay.
Yeah.
So and it's a 1-year program.
Yep.
After which now theoretically they're in a position to strike out on their own, but a lot of them don't. They stay with you.
Yeah, they stay. So we have a couple graduates who are staffers. We have my director of programs is a graduate. A couple of guys that work in our wood shop are graduates that work for us. They're full-time employees of Soteria, so we're able to give them a job, and a couple of them rent houses that we have, that we prepare for them as low-income housing.
Right, because in addition to the transitional housing, you also have 14
low-income rentals.
Low-income rentals.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is very interesting. So you're operating a nonprofit, but you have a lot of earned income. Mm-hmm. So you're not only relying on philanthropy,
right. Or the government.
Or the government. Although I suppose you also qualify for grants and things like that.
Yes.
So you're getting grants, you're getting earned income, you're getting philanthropy, donations, you're selling the products that are made in the wood shop.
Yep, like this table. This is one of the tables that our guys made.
You're generating rental income. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you have multiple sources.
Multiple streams.
That must make it a little easier.
A little bit.
A little bit.
A little bit. Yeah. And it's
easy is probably the wrong word to use.
It's always work.
Never easy.
Yeah, it's always work.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, that's amazing. And you've been at it for 22 years. How has it evolved over that course of time?
Well, for a good bit of time, there were no staff people. It was just me and probably one person and a lot of volunteers. Volunteers are volunteers. They come when they want to. They got families, and you can't say, "Hey, do this for me." So it was tough because I was the man. I did everything. I carried this thing on my back for a lot of years, and it was daunting. Mm-hmm. But I had to do it because I knew I was called to do it. Mm-hmm. My family suffered a lot for it, and now I'm able to push some of that work on other people.
Okay.
So I have 9 staff people that work for me now, including men in the program and some professional people.
The guys in the wood shop just told me that you're like 24/7.
Yeah.
So have you really been able to pull back a little bit?
I have.
Yeah.
I have pulled back, but this is my life.
Yeah.
I still run this organization like a startup. That's why it's so successful. My heart's in it, and they know it. I love people. I love hard. And when you give somebody something, you trust them with it, that's fine. But this is me. Soteria is who I am. It's
an
God
expression
breathed.
of who you are.
Yes, and so everybody, I'm here, but I'm not really 24/7. But they know if they want me, they have access to me.
Yeah, you're available.
Yeah, I am available.
So Soteria obviously fills an important void. it seems to me. You're doing something, you're running a program that just is not widely available, but arguably should be, or something like this. But it's also hard to scale this up. I mean, have you thought about ways to implement this kind of solution in other South Carolina cities, or to mentor somebody else who might start up something similar somewhere else, or maybe even convince the powers that be that the government itself should embrace programs like this? And if it were government, it would be scalable. You know, they could do something with all of the prisons, theoretically, anyway. Scalability, in other words, is an issue. And so it's an issue for any nonprofit, right? Any nonprofit is doing something relatively local and relatively limited and can't really scale up to the full capacity to meet the total need. And I suppose neither can you.
Yeah. And
so how do you get past that?
So we've been talking about scaling, me and my board, for the last couple of years. And South Carolina is a funny place. I'm just going to be real and honest with you. You know, Jesus said a prophet gets no honor in his own hometown. So I've been able to do more outside of South Carolina in Greenville than in my own hometown. Other organizations have taken our model and have scaled it to the nth degree. South Carolina is just kind of just watching Jerry. You know, I'm a homegrown boy here. You know, and they're looking at me like, oh, that's just Jerry. It's like your uncle or your brother. Oh, that's just Pete. You know. And so I'm even working in Liberia. We've taken our model to Liberia, and people in Liberia are using some of the resources that we have. So it is scalable, and we are going to scale one day. But I think it's bigger than scaling. We have to get into the systems. Those of us who are impacted need to be empowered to lead.
In the institutions themselves.
Yes. And so my sights on just more than scaling. You know, I want to scale Soteria, but I may not be the one that's running it. You know, I want to be the president one day or something like that. I want to be somewhere, not maybe president, but I want to be able to make decisions. We have to be in positions. Those people who've been impacted need to be in decision-making places in order for America to change. Not only people...
Because you know.
Yeah, not only people who've been impacted by incarceration, but black people, women, all of us.
Right. The people affected by policies and that are not generally helpful are the ones to understand best how to reform those policies.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think that's where we're going. We have to go. We know we have to get to that place. You know, my good friend Glenn says it like this. Glenn Martin from Just Leadership says, those who are closer to the problem are closer to the solution, but furthest from the resources and the power.
So true.
You know, and so I want to get to a place where I have resources and power. There's no way that I could have grown Soteria with my hands out. I don't want to be controlled. I can't be bought, and I'm not for sale.
Right. Yeah, you had to do it yourself.
Right.
And you had to do it this way. But now you're in a funny position where you're not getting quite the support you should, arguably. Institutional support.
Right.
Or governmental support.
Right.
Or whatever. That's very interesting. So where else are you working? Liberia? Where else?
You know, just around the U.S. I'm consulting with a small nonprofit out of Florida right now. You know, they're using our model, and I'm doing Zoom. You know, with them.
Oh, great. That's great.
You know, a couple of places around the country. Just call all the time. I'm doing a lot of Zoom conferences right now with different people.
Understandable.
Yeah. You know, so it's been really good. People can. I was traveling a lot, but now I'm more accessible through Zoom. So, you know, but I love teaching. I love training. I love telling people about what we do and how we do it. You know, even in South Carolina now, things are opening up. So I don't want to be as hard on Greenville and South Carolina, but, you know, people are asking because, you know, we have something that works. This works. You know, in the last 5 years, our recidivism rate is only 4% if people who graduate or come through our program, you know.
That's impressive.
You know, because, you know, it works. People who get faith, understand finances, walk in obedience, you know, something happens.
Well, and they're learning essential life skills that are marketable. You know, the guys in the wood shop are not only learning how to rebuild their lives,
Yeah.
but they're learning how to use. I mean, some of them already have some of this experience, you know, but they're doing something, and especially in this market, the real estate market is booming.
Yes.
After all,
Yes.
carpentry is a skill in demand. So you're giving them genuine opportunities,
Yes.
you know, once they graduate the program.
Yeah. And, you know, even more than resources, a lot of these men and women haven't been loved. They haven't had families to really care about them. And I try to give people what I need. I need love. I need somebody to care about me. So a lot of the people who I help, they're just like me. They came from broken homes, trauma. And at first it's like, what do you want from me? Why are you giving me this? Why are you hugging me? Why are you telling me you love me? But then they get it. Like, this is genuine. And so that's why the guys who stay, that's why
the
they stay
only
well.
somebody like you can do that, can provide that in a convincing way, because you've lived that experience yourself, and they know that, so they know it's real.
Yeah. And so lived experience should count for something.
Should it
So
does.
somebody should give me a PhD then, right?
Yeah. Yeah, somebody should. Seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah, an honorary degree.
Something.
Or 2 or 3 or something, given what you're doing here. Jerry Blassingame, thank you so much. This is really quite an extraordinary operation. I'm so glad to be able to meet you and to learn about Soteria. I'm just thrilled. And it's really kind of touching, you know, to see what's happening here.
Well, Adam, thank you so much. It's my pleasure, you know, to talk, and with you being so generous with your time and your stories.
Well, thank you. Thank you for everything you're doing. I hope you keep it up, and I hope you convince others to embrace this model. Good luck.
Well, thank you.
Yes. 12 Black Leaders to Know is a special project of the Post and Courier. We couldn't have done it without our sponsors. Thank you.
So a lot of what I do is very complex. I write about animals, conservation, things like that. And so I really try to talk to the experts and take what they say and make it more understandable for the everyday person. I work very closely with conservation groups, local universities. Now I'm actually talking with the National Weather Service on a regular basis just to make sure that the information that I'm reporting is actually facts and not just opinion-based. I see that a lot of people really respect the Post and Courier, and not just here in Charleston, but all over the state. I've seen a lot of comments and heard a lot of comments that what we're doing is better than any other outlet, and people look to us for facts, accurate news.